Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rudolf Okonkwo. Today we are discussing President Jonathan's state of emergency declaration in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe States. To help us explore that topic, we have a special guest, Mr. Femi Falana, joining us via Skype from Lagos. Mr. Falana is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He is the national chairman of the National Conscience Party of Nigeria. He ran for governor of Ekiti State in 2007 election. Mr. Falana, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm very good today. We appreciate the time you have for us. I want to start straight and ask you, you came out in support of President Jonathan's state of emergency, and that surprised some of your friends. Are you one of those Nigerians that the ACN, that is the opposition party ACN, said are hoodwinked by the president's decision not to remove political office holders in those states?
First of all, let me correct with profound respect, misinformation with regards to my status. I am no longer the chairman, the national chairman of the National Conscience Party.
Okay.
The current chairman is Dr. Tanko Yunusa, Okay. But I haven't made that correction.
Okay.
I don't want to react to what anybody might have said or what the ACM might have said, but certainly, I believe very strongly that the government of Nigeria has a duty under the Constitution and under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights to defend the people of Nigeria, to protect their life and property, as well as defend the territorial integrity of the country. If any armed gang of terrorists or kidnappers and other nihilist people decide to seize the Nigerian state and take control of the monopoly of violence in the country, the government has a duty to declare a war against such a group. As far as I'm concerned, by virtue of Section 305 of the Nigerian Constitution, the president is empowered to adopt extraordinary measures to restore law and order in the country whenever there is a breakdown, either in any section of the country or in the entire country. And that is what state of emergency is all about. First, what happened last week Tuesday, was a mere formalization of a declaration of a state of emergency, which had existed almost illegally in those states. If anybody therefore says there was no basis for the declaration, with profound respect, I don't think such a person can be very serious. Before now, the president had deployed troops, armed troops, in those states, and nobody has complained. For me, I don't think the broadcast of the president, which came rather too late, should really be a cause for disagreement if we're all resolved that we need to protect the life and property of every person in Nigeria. And that is my position on the matter. It's allowed by the Constitution. And that is why Section 305 has set out the procedures to embark upon in declaring a state of emergency.
Now, in the speech, President Jonathan said that there is a war going on in the country, that even Nigerian flags are being removed or replaced with other flags in some parts of the country. Do you think that we have underestimated what has been going on in some parts of the north?
Well, I think because quite a number of us are currently removed from the scene of the war, from the theater of the war. We have seemed to underrate, what has been going on. If you have a situation in your hands where armed gangs unleash mayhem on innocent people, abducting women and children, and abducting a 92-year-old man, killing people, attacking police stations and army barracks, going to prisons to set free those who have been convicted by the state, frankly speaking, no war can be more brutal. That was a clear case of a declaration of a war against the Nigerian state. And even when the government carelessly granted amnesty or offered amnesty to the members of the Boko Haram sect, they came out to say, if there should be amnesty, they were the ones that should be offering amnesty to the Nigerian state, and that there was no basis for dialogue. And they were going to impose a state of Islam on the country. For me, such declarations transcend, you know, what you might call what the kidnappers or militants are doing. This has to do, or this pertains to a major declaration of war against the Nigerian people, not against the Jonathan administration alone.
Yeah,
and it's not a northern phenomenon. It's a national calamity. It's a national tragedy that a gang of armed gangs, a gang of armed chaps can. They have killed 4,000 people in the last 3 years, and we have lost properties worth over 2 trillion naira. They've set, you know, churches on fire. They've attacked people in the mosque. They've killed innocent people. They've gone to the cab and bus stops. They've burnt the UN building in Abuja. They've attacked the police headquarters. They've attacked military barracks and police stations. What else do you want? What else will you call a state of war?
Now, it appears that you agree with the president that it was right to return all the political office holders in those states. And opposition people are saying that basically this is all about 2015. Do you see it that way, or do you see it as really a genuine or sincere effort to deal with this situation?
Frankly speaking, I think Nigerians of all shades of opinion will have to agree that there should be certain irreducible minimum standards of behavior in this country. This whole race for 2015 has been so diversionary. Everything done now, everything said by anybody in the country is understood, you know, around 2015. And there has to be a country before 2015 anyway. Having said that, I think it is dangerous for those who believe in democracy to ask the president or anybody to remove democratic structures in our country. There are 320 sections of the Constitution. I have challenged those who have the view that the president ought to have removed elected governors and other democratic structures, to point to one section of the Constitution that has turned the president into a dictator who can suspend the Constitution once there is a state of emergency. They haven't been able to do that. Section 305 is explicit on what to do, which is the adoption of extraordinary measures to restore law and order in a country or in any part of the country. It does not say that once there is a state of emergency, either in any section of the country or in the entire country, that the president shall remove elected governors. In any case, if the country is fighting a war against any of the neighboring countries, or there is a civil war, the president can declare a state of emergency on the entire country. Do you therefore expect the president to vacate office for a sole administrator so that an army officer can take over the country? That would be treason. That would be subversion of the entire democratic process. There are decisions of our courts to the effect that the governor of a state has no powers to remove a councillor, talk less of a chairman of a state. In the same vein, the president of the country has no powers to remove the governor of a state because he didn't elect him anyway. And for the avoidance of doubt, Section 11, subsection 4 of the Constitution has clearly stipulated that the takeover of the legislative powers of a state by the National Assembly, when the members of the House of Assembly of a state cannot discharge their functions, should not be construed or shall not be construed as empowering the National Assembly to remove the governor or the deputy governor of a state. That is clearly stated in the Constitution. Besides that, under the Constitution, the conditions for removing a governor are spelled out. A governor can be removed by impeachment, on account of resignation, death, or ill health, leading to infirmity of mind or body. On no other ground can an elected governor be removed under the Constitution. The same goes for elected members of the House of Assembly of those states. You can call a member of the House of Assembly, it can be removed by a tribunal, right? But you cannot remove a legislator on the ground that some armed bandits have taken over a part of the state or the entire state. In fact, it does not say the legislators shall not be paid their salary and allowances at that period. There's no such provision in the Constitution. Now, but you know, Nigerians, we have been used to constitutional anomalies and executive lawlessness because the former president, General Olusegun Obasanjo, illegally removed the governor of Plateau State and also illegally removed the acting governor of Ekiti State, Honorable Aderemi, when you had when he imposed a state of emergency, you know, in those two states. People have now been made to believe that once there is a state of emergency, the governors of such states and other democratic structures shall be removed. Again, people are forgotten.
Now, Mr. Falana, let me ask you, in most democracies around the world, a state of emergency, when declared, is specific about the rights that are being suspended and for how long. Are you concerned that in this case, we don't know the time frame? And remember, on December 31st, 2011, the president imposed a state of emergency in 15 local government areas in 4 states. And up to now, they've not been lifted, and we don't know the state of things. Do you know, and are you concerned that we don't know how long this is going to last?
No. I think it's important to correct that position. It's not correct.
Okay.
In January 2012, following the Mandela, the attack on St. Teresa's Church in Mandala in Niger State, the president imposed a state of emergency on 15 local governments in 4 states, Borno, Yobe, Plateau, and Niger State. That was in January. 6 months later, in July 2012, the state of emergency was lifted. Under the law, once the approval of the National Assembly is obtained, if it is approved, because the state of emergency has not yet been approved by the National Assembly, if both chambers of the National Assembly vote against the state of emergency, that will be the end of the matter. But if they approve it, the president will be required to enact regulations stipulating the extent of the emergency or the measures that are being put in place. Usually, if you go by the Mandela, the one declared last year, there were about 8 instruments, 8 regulations made pursuant to the declaration, which included the movement of troops, restriction of movements, ban on public meetings and rallies, and the rest of them. I expect this time around that the president is also going to enact regulations if the state of emergency is approved by the National Assembly. It cannot, it's not a martial law. It does not allow the president to become a dictator whereby anybody can be dealt with in those states. The rights of our people remain protected.
Now, Mr. Falana, since the fight against Boko Haram started, nobody knows how many people have been detained without trial. the JTF, basically, they've been doing whatever they wanted to do. We have the Human Rights Watch saying that they are killing people without trial. And the U.S. report says that the approach is strong-handed. Now, my question for you is, do you think the state of emergency now declared will improve any of these things? And who is going to hold them responsible for what they are doing there, the JTF?
No, what we have to do as a people is to be vigilant so that the government does not, or the armed forces, or the JTF, the Joint Task Force or forces, do not take advantage of a state of emergency to violate, to engage in the massive violations of the rights of our people. And that is why those of us at home, I mean, beside what the Amnesty or Human Rights Watch have been trying to say or do, what we have done at home is to challenge the government, to join issues with the government. In fact, we have even gone to the extent of dragging the Nigerian government to the special prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. And investigations have already commenced on the violations of the rights of the Nigerian people. And if care is not taken, on both sides, on the side of the Boko Haram, sharps, as well as Nigerian soldiers, we expect that some of them are likely to be taken to The Hague for trial.
Are you saying that the president might be taken to The Hague for trial?
No, I'm not. I do not have such evidence yet. But I'm saying.
But he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So if the armed forces.
I'm saying that anybody who is liable, who is found liable in the investigation going on, of course, there is no immunity. As far as the Rome Statute is concerned, anybody who is involved will definitely be taken to The Hague for trial. That's why we have warned the members of the armed forces, the JTF, operators, or operatives, to watch out and to be very careful.
Now,
the ongoing onslaught against the Boko Haram suspects. I mean, men and women who are unleashing violence on the people of Nigeria.
Now, Mr. Falana, to a large extent, the whole country is under siege. If it's not Boko Haram, it's the cult, one cult or the other, or kidnappers, or even poverty. What is the long-term solution to all these problems?
The long-term solutions to all these problems, number one, is for the government to channel the huge funds that have been appropriated for security of the country towards engaging in the training of security men and women, security personnel, pay them well, improve their conditions of service, have life insurance for members of the armed forces and the police, and of course, decentralize the policing of the country so that every state in the country, every local government in the country, as is done in other parts of the world, can police their own environment, their own jurisdictions. Beside that, beside making provision for the architecture of security, we must also look at the social and economic dimension of security. If young men and women are out of school and they have to roam the street for years without job, they are likely to be attracted to criminality. And that is what has been going on in our country. You have kidnapping in many states in the country. You have armed robbery all over the country. You have terrorism in some section of the country. But when you look at the totality of these challenges to the security of the country, you come to the irresistible conclusion that the resources of our country have been cornered by a few people who have become dangerously rich, while the majority of our people are wallowing in poverty. And in such an environment, frustrations normally lead to deprivation, and deprivations, of course, will lead to violence, and that is what the state is witnessing. Therefore, if we want to address the crisis of violence in the country, the government must be prepared, and Nigerians must completely be prepared to force the government to address the question of poverty in the midst of plenty. Right now, out of a population of 167 million people, going by the statistics of the National Bureau of Statistics, not less than 112 million people now live below poverty level. This is unacceptable, it is intolerable, and it should not be allowed by Nigeria. And so if you want peace, if you want law and order in the country, you must provide for the majority of the people. Okay,
Mr. Falana, we're running out of time. Let me ask you, progressives like you appear to have abandoned efforts for a national conference to tackle the structural flaws that are fueling some of this crisis. Now, it seems as if the progressives are now putting all their hopes in the opposition party, the newly formed APC. Will the APC be any different from the PDP when they get into power, if they get into power?
Well, in the first place, some of us are no longer part of the movement for the convocation of a sovereign national conference because the idea has been hijacked by those who want an opportunity or who have reduced the demand to a meeting of champions of ethnic nationalities to plan how to exchange the battles of power without discussing the responsibilities of power. As far as some of us are concerned, it is not a national conference for ethnic nationalities. It is a national conference to discuss, to debate the national question. And the national question is not about who rules the country. It is about who gets what, when, and how. And for us, the members of the ruling class are not very comfortable with the idea of convoking a sovereign national conference to discuss the national question. Clearly, those who are moving into the opposition, main opposition alliance, the APC, are of course entitled under the Constitution and from the agenda, from the manifestos, and from the programs of the new alliance, clearly is setting out to address a number of the problems confronting the country. But we have repeatedly made it clear to the promoters of the new alliance that if the Nigerian people cannot draw a line of dichotomy between the PDP and the alliance, you may just be playing to the hands of the ruling party. Therefore, anybody who is genuinely committed to the eradication of poverty in our country, who is committed to give Nigerian people a new sense of purpose, should come out publicly to distance itself from the neoliberal policies dictated by the IMF and the World Bank that have rendered our country prostrate. This is a wonderfully rich country, wonderfully endowed country.
Now, Mr. Falana, I think our connection is bad. Okay.
Which has been badly mismanaged by successive regimes. So anybody who wants to change the situation will have to come out and let Nigerians know that there is a new program in town.
Now, Mr. Falana, we have just a few seconds left. Let me ask you, what is your view on the presidency of Jonathan so far? And do you think that he deserves a second term in office?
Well, I think for me as a lawyer, I don't engage in speculation. So far, the president has not declared that he's running for a second term, and therefore, I'm not in a position to say whether he deserves a second term or not. But as far as I'm concerned, you have to judge him by his program. I haven't seen anything transformed. He said when he took office in 2011, he said he was going to engage in transformation. Nothing had been transformed in the country other than the fact that corruption, official corruption, has assumed a dangerous proportion. Insecurity of life and property has become very problematic for the country. Infrastructure decay.
Okay. Mr. Falana, can you hear me? Okay. Go ahead. I think we have a bad connection with Mr. Falana, and I think we will end it here. We will. Mr. Falana, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on Sahara TV.
Thank you, thank you.
All right.
See you again.
Okay, thanks. That was Mr. Falana, Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, talking about the implications of the the state of emergency declared by the president. When we come back, we are going to talk to the former governor of Kaduna State, Mr. Babara Musa, who will also talk on the same issue. And coming up, also, we are going to bring you the programs, our usual programs, Skipping a Role and Dr. Damages. So stay tuned.